Hi, I'm Kaja.
And I'm Joanna.
And this is Starlit Citadel Reviews.
Rampage is a fun, silly dexterity game from designers Antoine Bauza and Ludovic Maublanc and publisher Asmodee Editions.
In Rampage, players are giant monsters destroying Meeple City, trying to get as many points as they can along the way. You can play with 2 to 4 players, and it takes less than an hour.
Players start Rampage by setting up the board and building a 3-story building on each ruin. Each floor of a building is supported by 4 randomly chosen meeples, and 1 meeple goes on the roof. Any remaining meeples go in the stadium in the middle of the board, and each vehicle is placed in the space matching its color.
The players decide whether to use the A or B side of the runaway board and place it face up, and then each player gets a screen, monster body, and pair of monster paws in the same color. They place 4 teeth in the spaces on the outside of their screen, and everyone draws 1 card each from the character, power, and secret superpower decks. Players reveal their character and power cards, and they place their monster in a starting corner of the board by stacking the body on top of the paws. Then the game begins.
On their turn, a player can take 2 of the following actions: move, demolish, toss a vehicle, or breathe. And you can take 2 of the same action on your turn.
To move, a player removes their monster's body from their paws and then flicks their paws across the board to a new location, returning the monster's body to them at that new location. If they shoot their paws off the board, then they lose a tooth and they place their monster in the nearest starting area.
If a monster's paws are touching the sidewalk around a building, then it can try to demolish it. So the player picks up the monster's body off of its paws, holds their arm out parallel to the table, and then drops it. If the monster misses the building entirely, they lose a tooth.
If a monster's in the same neighborhood as a vehicle, it can toss it. Neighborhoods are colored areas of the board that are bordered by brown walls, sidewalks, and the edge of the board. To toss a vehicle, a player picks up the vehicle, places it on top of their monster body, and flicks it. You can hold onto your monster body and tilt it if you wish. If the vehicle lands outside of the board, then it gets placed back on its starting space.
To breathe, a player places their chin on top of their monster's head, inhales, and blows. Now you can support the monster's body with 1 hand, but you cannot inhale until you've put your chin on top of your monster.
If a player knocks down another monster's body, they get to take 1 tooth from that monster and place it behind their screen in their stomach. The monster that's been knocked over stays lying down until the beginning of that player's turn, and it cannot lose any more teeth while it's lying down. If a monster has no more teeth to lose, it loses 2 meeples out of its stomach.
At any point during a player's turn, if there's nothing on top of a building's floor, they can immediately claim that floor and place it in their stomach.
If a meeple leaves the city, it's placed on the runaway board. If you're using side A of the board, it fills up from top to bottom. Side B fills up by color. As soon as a row on the board is filled, then the active player suffers the effect it lists.
After taking their actions, a player's monster gets to chow down and eat the meeples in their neighborhood. Now, a monster can eat as many meeples as it has teeth, and they go into its stomach. Meeples that are entirely enclosed within a ruin or sidewalk, or that are supporting the floor of a building, cannot be eaten.
Each monster has a power that changes the way they perform certain actions and can be used at the time indicated on its card. It can change the way you move, demolish, or chow down. Each player also has a secret superpower, which is a 1-use effect that can be used at the time that the card indicates.
The game ends when the final floor is eaten or knocked out of the city, or when side A of the runaway board is filled. Now, players collect 10 points for every set of 6 differently colored meeples in their stomach. They get 1 point for every floor in their stomach, and 2 points for every tooth in their stomach. You're also going to get extra points for fulfilling the conditions on your character card. And the player with the most points wins.
So Rampage is a delightful game. I am not a huge fan of dexterity games, but that's because most of the dexterity games that I've played take themselves too seriously, and that is not a problem here. The art and the design in Rampage is gorgeous. It's bright, it's vibrant, the theme is hilarious, there's a lot of stuff to look at, and that's really enjoyable and really light and fun. Also, there is strategy in this game. Just enough strategy to keep people who are maybe not into dexterity games interested. The adults at the table will still have something to think about. It's not just flicking pieces off of a board, for sure. One negative that I see in this game is the imbalance. There is a little bit of imbalance in the cards, the powers and the secret superpower cards that you get. Some of them are definitely a little stronger than others, so you could feel like you're being shortchanged.
Probably the biggest challenge when it comes to Rampage is that setup can be a little bit of a pain. Especially the first time around when you've got to assemble the board and sticker all of the pieces, it's going to take you a little bit. And for a game that usually lasts a half hour or a little bit more, there is a significant proportion of time that's spent just building up Meeple City in the first place. That being said, one thing you don't really have to worry about is cleanup. This game handles that incredibly intelligently, especially for a game that is great to play with children. One of the terrifying thoughts if you're playing with kids is, having to spend a couple hours after the game fishing meeples out from under the furniture when the kids have wandered off and gotten bored. And the runaway boards in this game are a really clever mechanic for making cleanup be an ongoing thing. Not only do they add some challenge and some strategy to the game, but they also make it really motivating to go and retrieve those runaway meeples and put them on the board, because you might be able to use them to get one of your opponents out of the game, or at least really, really harm them. And that's a really clever bit of design that's indicative of the kind of thought and intelligence that went into designing this silly, silly, and fun game. I also really like how much thought went into making it replayable. All of those different superpowers are a lot of fun and they add some character to the game, but they do also mean that your strategy and your approach to things is going to be a little bit different every time you play. The dexterity mechanic is novel, it's fun, picking up monsters and dropping them is entertaining, but just when you think that might get stale on its own, you've got the addition of these cards that are going to mean that you don't get bored of the game quite as quickly, and that might make it a big difference for people with younger players or for groups of adults that want to have a silly night of fun.
Rage fatigue.